experience suggests otherwise. In 20 years of practice, I've had over 100 men take a paternity test, like Jerry Springer. Seriously, do you know how many were wrong in predicting their biological relation to the child? 2. This shocked me and taught me my third lesson. Fathers, too, have a genetic bond and instinct about their children from infancy. Forget where you are for a moment, seriously, and close your eyes. I'd like to ask you to feel. Think about your childhood. Picture your father, his smiling eyes, strong hands. Hear his deep voice. What did you love about your dad? Did he throw you high into the air? Teach you to ride a bike? Carry you home when you got hurt? Push you when you tried to give up? What did it feel like to have a daddy? Secure, fun, challenging? Now, go back in your memories and erase your father from every scene. This is what the other 40% of people's childhoods look like. Just under half the people listening to me, including my own 12-year-old son, felt sad, angry, or blank during the peak of your joy while playing along. Eye-opening, isn't it? Nearly 2 of every 5 children in America are growing up without their fathers, or 17 million, according to the 2016 census. Other sources estimate as many as 30 million. In 2011, I joined the board for a local charity called Nevada Youth Empowerment Project, or ENYAP. ENYAP is a housing program for homeless girls ages 18 to 24. As board president of this small charity, I've been closely involved and gotten to know the girls and their tragic stories over the years. Hundreds of otherwise homeless girls have come through our program. Their backgrounds and what they've endured would haunt you. Do you know the one thing all of these girls have in common? They all come from fatherless homes. Sadly, these girls aren't the exception. They're the rule. My fourth lesson about fatherhood came from the data. According to the Center for Disease Control, children from fatherless homes account for 90% of all homeless and runaway kids, 71% of high school dropouts, and 63% of addiction haunt you. Do you know the one thing all of these girls have in common? They all come from fatherless homes. Sadly, these girls aren't the exception. They're the rule. My fourth lesson about fatherhood came from the data. According to the Center for Disease Control, children from fatherless homes account for 90% of all homeless and runaway kids. 71% of all homeless girls have come through our program. Their backgrounds and what they've endured would haunt you. Do you know the one thing all of these girls have in common? They all come from fatherless homes. Sadly, these girls aren't the exception. They're the rule. My fourth lesson about fatherhood came from the data. According to the Center for Disease Control, children from fatherless homes account for 90% of all homeless and runaway kids, 71% of high school dropouts, and 63% of youth suicides. While you listen to me speak, you have to be wondering, what makes fathers so crucial? Honestly, the answer is complex and better explored by psychologists. What I can tell you is that the data unequivocally tells us fathers are vital, and yet laws and society undervalue their importance, making it harder for them to be in their children's lives. Even fathers underrate their own value. I know this data upsets a lot of mothers, me included. But advocating for fathers isn't about diminishing mothers. While children deserve both parents whenever possible, this crisis is specific to fathers. The occurrence of fatherlessness is epidemic. The effects are catastrophic, and the causes are male, gender specific.
Have you ever wondered why we are paid every 2 weeks when we work every day? With EarnIn, you can access your pay the same day that you work and get up to $100 per day with no interest, no mandatory fees, and no credit check. EarnIn believes that the money that you earn should flow at the speed of you to move you forward instead of holding you back. Download the EarnIn app today and start making everyday pay.
monthly purchases like rent, your phone bill, even a Netflix subscription to raise your credit score instantly. With your improved credit score, you can access better loans and credit cards to help you save even more money. Nearly 30 years ago, leading child psychologist Michael Lamb reminded us, fathers are the forgotten contributors to child development. Yet, researchers have found that children with involved fathers have stronger cognitive and motor skills, elevated physical and mental health, become better problem solvers, and are more confident, curious, and empathetic. Sadly, we've had this data for 30 years, and fatherlessness has only continued to rise during this time. The main contributors to fatherlessness are divorce and out-of-wedlock births. Every 13 seconds, someone in America gets divorced. That equates to almost 2.5 million divorces a year. Lucky me. Currently, more than 40% or 1.5 million babies are born out of wedlock each year in the U.S. And this brings me back to the first and most significant thing that my career has taught me about fatherhood. Family court is one of the critical places where fathers are disadvantaged, and this hurts kids. Historically, this maternal preference was solidified in the tender years doctrine, which mandated custody of children under age 4 be awarded to mothers. This doctrine was in use until the 80s. As the laws progressed, visitation for fathers improved, but it took a lot of years before the law was finally gender equal. In fact, it wasn't until 2017 that Nevada finally adopted a presumption for joint physical custody. When I began my practice, and until 10 years ago, the best my father clients could expect was every other weekend visitation and maybe a dinner on the off week. While significant legal progress has been made, this long-standing bias against fathers still occurs in the enforcement of custody orders, in child support rulings, and it exists in paternity laws. All the while, the number of kids growing up without dads continues to rise. Between 1960 and 2016, the percentage of children growing up with just mothers nearly tripled, from 8 to 23%. Maternity laws desperately need more reform to protect the 40% of children born out of wedlock each year in the U.S. Right now, once custody is in order, it's illegal to remove a child from their father, usually a felony. But it's perfectly legal in all 50 states for a woman to conceal her pregnancy, leave the father's name off the birth certificate, and never tell him he is a child. Ever. How is this not kidnapping? Just as horrible, a woman can knowingly list the wrong father in a child's birth certificate, deceive him, and a short while later, in many states, the wrong man becomes that child's legal father forever. He's obligated to a child that isn't U.S. Right now, once custody is in order, it's illegal to remove a child from their father, usually a felony. But it's perfectly legal in all 50 states for a woman to conceal her pregnancy, leave the father's name off the birth certificate, and never tell him he is a child. Ever. How is this not kidnapping? Just as horrible, a woman can knowingly list the wrong father in a child's birth certificate, deceive him, and a short while later, in many states, the wrong man becomes that child's legal father forever. He's obligated to a child that isn't his, and that child just lost their real father with little to no recourse. This is a betrayal of the worst kind, and the law not only allows it, it creates the opportunity. This is what we know. Every bit of data we have tells us children need their fathers. The law, its application, and society at large disfavor fathers. The law is improving, but the statistics are not. So, what can you do? We are the change makers, all of us. If you're a father, make the effort. Do everything you can to be in your children's daily lives. If you're a mother, encourage and facilitate the relationship between your children and their father instead of trying to interfere or control it. If you're a child, spend time with your dad. Ask him to do something. seeks advice and guidance. If you're an employer, grant the fathers you employ the ability to be at their children's events, to help in their schools, to take sick days to care for their kids. If you work in the legal field, help us continue to progress, change the laws, and ensure that they're enforced to protect fathers and their children. The importance of this pursuit cannot be overstated. The fate of nearly half of America's children depends on it. I'd like to close by asking all of you to do one final thing. Please stand if you are able, or raise your hand. I'm serious, please. If you grew up without a father, if you raised or raising a child without a father, or if you were a father who's been separated from your child. Now, look around. The people really affected by fatherlessness. Really, look. Those of you standing and raising your hands aren't numbers. You're real, living, and feeling humans. You're the children scarred by fatherlessness. Now let me tell you who can't stand. The 1,000 fatherless children who were murdered last year. The 3,000 fatherless children who died from drugs. The 3,200 fatherless children who committed suicide last year. And the 14,000 fatherless children who were incarcerated. Everyone, please stand for them and do everything you can to help the remaining 17 million fatherless children avoid these fates. Thank you.
They're called bionic boomers. Seniors once riddled with debilitating arthritis pain, given a new lease on life thanks to Dr. Paris's unusual method for relieving stiff, achy joints.
The transformations have been absolutely incredible. I'll never forget when I saw Greg jumping on a trampoline when just days before he couldn't get out of bed and thought he was going to live the rest of his life in a wheelchair.
But Dr. Paris, also known as Dr. DIY, showed Greg one simple at-home technique that helped him to do what no other doctor or treatment was able to do before: restore his mobility and regain his quality of life.
He was so grateful, and for me, nothing lights my heart up more than seeing people move, be more active, and smile again. To my astonishment, I woke up the next morning actually thinking I was dreaming because I had no back pain.
But it wasn't just Greg who was feeling brand new again.
It's been a godsend. It's been a blessing in my life. But then notice I'm holding cue cards. I'm holding cue cards because they're going to help me to focus on my message while at the same time shielding me from painful memories and intrusive thoughts. Because my story isn't an easy one to tell. In fact, every time I tell my story, I'll be traumatized. But if sharing my story means that one more girl has a chance at freedom, then it's worth it for me. Growing up in my family wasn't easy. Mental health problems and abuse can destabilize a family. But abuse doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It doesn't just start or stop in one individual's life. It permeates every action and activity of their being. Mental health problems and abuse led to neglect. And neglect left me on the streets of Scarborough.
Layer controls, copy.
All independent mercenaries! This request comes from our affiliate, DAFA. Rubicon Liberation Front has deployed Mouse artillery throughout the contaminated city. City itself has no strategic value. Cannot possibly hinder expansion of the Coral Survey. Show us your ambition. Destroy the Liberation Front's artillery. Bonus pay will be awarded for destroying their MTs. Want the enemy weakened. Consider it an opportunity to prove yourself. Suppress those mercenaries!